Hello AP World History students, Mr. Lassiter here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the long essay question, or the LEQ. So to recap, your AP World History exam is two sections. In the first section you have two parts, 55 multiple choice questions, and 3 short answer questions. Look at the video on the SAQ if you have any questions about that. But for section 2, you have 2 longer essays. One, the document-based question, which we'll deal with in another video, and one long essay question that we are dealing with here. Now, the LEQ, or long essay question, is about 15% of your exam grade. You have 40 minutes to write this essay. That's about 5 minutes to plan and 35 minutes to write. The good thing is, this year you will be given 3 options for your LEQ, and you are to pick only one of those 3. Each essay choice will have the same historical thinking skill, and it will deal with 3 different time periods. Option 1 will come from periods 1 to 2, that's everything up to 600 CE. Option 2 will come from periods 3 and 4, or everything from 600 to 1750. And option 3 from our final 2 time periods, 5 and 6. So you will get to choose the option that you feel strongest in, and then you will go about answering the question that you know best. Now, these historical thinking skills that you are asked to demonstrate in the long essay question are threefold. We have causation, or an examination of causes and or effects, depending on what the question asks. Comparison, that is an examination and analysis of similarities and differences. And the last one, change and continuity over time, which is an analysis of things that change and things that stay the same historically in a given place within a given theme or topic. Your essays will deal with one of these 3 historical thinking skills, and those thinking skills will guide how you answer the question. For each essay. All 3 essay topics, or all 3 essay skills, are graded along the same rubric. And so we're going to take a look at that rubric in this video. So the LEQ rubric consists of 6 points, and they are all individual points. So we'll start out with contextualization, what I will ask you to be doing first when you start your introductory paragraph. Think about contextualization as the Star Wars crawl. At the beginning of each episode of Star Wars, there is several paragraphs of information giving you background to what is going on in the movie, or what has been going on building up to the events that you're about to see. Now, you don't have to write several paragraphs, but this is something that would take more than just a phrase. It would take significant attention, a few sentences at least. So according to the rubric, to earn this point, the response must relate the topic of the prompt to broader historical events, developments, or processes that occur before, during, or after the time frame of the question. So this is, again, not awarded for a mere phrase or reference point, but it is something that you have to do to really give a good idea of what are you coming into. It's part of a good introduction. And again, we will be practicing this throughout the year. Now, the next point is one of the more difficult points to get, and that is the thesis. Your thesis is what guides your paper. It is your main claim. This is worth another point. It must answer all parts of the question to get the point. It must be a historically defensible claim. You need to do this in your introduction after you've done your contextualization, and you can try it again in the conclusion. This is one or more consecutive sentences. It cannot be broken up in the introduction, but it must be in either that first paragraph or the last paragraph of the essay. Going back to your contextualization, that can occur elsewhere as well, but it's really best to have it in my class up front. So what does it take to make a good thesis? And here are the requirements to get credit for having a good thesis in my class and getting the point. Number one, make reference to the dates you're dealing with, the chronology. Let the grader know that you know what time period we're talking about. Second, geography. What areas of the world are you addressing? Some questions are very broad and give you the whole global system, and you can choose whatever area within that system you want. And some are very narrow. They might narrow you down to Eurasia or perhaps Europe itself, or maybe a specific trade network like the Silk Roads or the Indian Ocean maritime system. So really pay attention to the geography that is listed in the essay prompt and be sure to be clear about it in your thesis. The third thing is the theme. Is this addressing interactions between humans and their environment, some aspects of demographics? Is it dealing with economics or political systems? Or is it dealing with social hierarchies? Is the essay dealing with culture and religion or belief systems? So whatever the prompt is asking for, you need to make sure that you are addressing that in the thesis. And using the words from the prompt to make sure that you're on theme is always a good practice. And the last thing, of course, is you want to answer the entire question. Chronology, geography, theme are good, but if you don't answer the question using the historical skill the prompt is asking for, you're gonna swing and miss. So this is either the causes and or effects, similarities and differences, or changes in continuities. And based on the experience from last year, you want to make sure that if the essay prompt has multiple things that you have to do, for example, describe and explain, that you are providing not just an identification of some of the similarities or differences or changes in continuities, but that you're also providing some sort of explanatory element to your thesis. That was something that was a major discussion last year. So we're going to make sure to do that well this year. Now, when we want to think further in the essay, we have contextualization, we have your thesis or claim for the paper. You also are given the possibility of earning 2 points for using evidence. And so this is kind of 2 levels of evidence here. You get 1 point for providing specific examples of evidence relevant to the topic in the essay. So if you're providing relevant evidence about some claim that you are making in your paper, then you can get 1 point. However, if you do this well, and as we are going to practice, you must use that evidence to support your argument, to support your thesis. And if you're doing that with relevant piece of evidence and you're explaining how that evidence goes back and supports the thesis, you have the possibility of earning 2 points. In my class, this is a high bar. I'm expecting you to consistently use evidence to support your thesis. So you can expect either 2 points or no points here if you're not doing it well. So make sure that you are explaining each piece of evidence and connecting it back to that last point we talked about, the thesis. And your final 2 points come from analysis and reasoning here. So this is your historical reasoning point. If you use historical reasoning to frame or structure an argument that addresses the prompt correctly, mind you, and historically correctly, by comparing correctly or explaining causation correctly or explaining change in continuity over time correctly, you are eligible to earn 1 point. If, as the rubric says, you demonstrate a complex understanding of the historical development, that is the focus of the prompt, and you use evidence to corroborate, qualify, or modify that argument that addresses the question, you can earn 2 points. Again, this is going to be another high bar for well-written essays that really make a more complex argument regarding the prompt. So what is a complex understanding? I'm not going to go through all of these with you, but that might be explaining numerous causes or similarities or changes in continuities. One aspect of this is what we used to have as a synthesis point, explaining relevant or insightful connections across time periods where you see the same trend or same thing occurring somewhere else in the world at a different time. or perhaps um, using other themes to confirm the validity of your argument. So this is where you really kind of go a little bit deeper, maybe even a little bit beyond the question to show that you really know what you're talking about to really support that thesis. Now that is the general rubric, and here is from our course guide for the LEQ, recapping some of the basics, but I want to draw attention to this paragraph here that in order to receive the highest scores, you must develop an argument and support it with an analysis of specific, relevant historical evidence. You get to choose that evidence. In fact, you get to choose the essay that you feel like you can give the most evidence for. But you need to make sure to have an in-depth discussion and use specific examples that you fully explain to support your thesis. I don't think I can say that enough. So what is the format of the LEQ? Well, here you go. We're thinking about an introduction. That's where you'll have your contextualization and your thesis statement. Then each body paragraph as needed, a strong topic sentence that addresses a change or continuity or a similarity or a difference or a cause or an effect that you can provide supporting evidence for and connect to your argument, thesis, or claim. Each of these you will repeat as needed throughout your essay. So you'll probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 body paragraphs if you know your topic well. And then your last paragraph is your conclusion. This is where you'll summarize your argument, and you should restate your thesis in much the same way you have it in your introductory paragraph, because you may find that you want to add something in addition, or maybe you feel like you could have done a better job. You can get the thesis point in your concluding paragraph. That is important to know. So how do you go about attacking this LEQ? We're going to practice what I like to call, or what is commonly called, UBOW-ing the LEQ. You pick the question you want to answer. You try to understand what is the question asking me to do. Once you get that idea, you brainstorm what you know. You organize your evidence, and then you begin to write. You create your thesis. You check to make sure, are you answering all parts of the question? And if you are, now you're ready to write your contextualization, your thesis, and the body of your essay. So as far as my final thought for this, keep in mind that the LEQ gives you less time to work than the DBQ. Your DBQ, which we'll have a video on later, is much more time intensive. So be sure to budget your time properly to give yourself enough time to write this long essay question. Remember, if you don't feel like you have a strong comprehensive thesis, that doesn't necessarily doom your whole essay, because every point is earned individually. If you contextualize well and you can provide evidence and you provide some level of historical reasoning, you could come out with the essay with 3 points without even having a strong thesis. But hopefully that won't be the point. Because remember, your thesis is your guide. You want to answer all parts of the question, and all evidence throughout the essay and the structure of your argument should go back to supporting that thesis statement. That's it for today in this video. As Jerry Springer says, take care of yourself and each other.